Alright, so today, I got this series, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but I'm thinking about you starting a bar. What are some different bottles that you could stock it with that your friends may or may not have? So I don't know. Today's a special bottle. Like one or two reasons. I gotta backtrack and talk about the first bottle that kind of brought me on this journey here. So once again, many moons ago, when I started my my hobby of collecting bourbons, I was just getting bottles at the store, whatever I saw and deemed necessary, right? So I came across, usually I remember for the most part where I buy most of my bottles from, but this particular bottle I personally don't remember where I got it from. So anyway, so I go to the store, I bought it. It was probably because of the name. I remember the name at the time was pretty strong in the industry. They had this honey cast that they did that was rave reviews and it was selling crazy on the secondhand market. Never saw that. I did see that in WoW. I wasn't paying wild prices for it. Anyway, so I came across this bottle, not this one. This is my second one. I'll get to it later. It's Bellamy's Sour Mash Straight Bourbon. Now, off bat, it was 90.4 proof at the time. I think at the time, this is when I definitely was still, I'm a knobhead. I love Knob Creek, right? So I was drinking a lot of Knob Creek, a lot of Wild Turkey. I was buying a lot of the Wild Turkey, drawing a blank right now, but it's the single barrel, not 101, but I think it's Kentucky Spirit is what they call it. I was drinking that and then Russell Reserves. Anyway, so I decided to add in my collection this Bellamy's Sour Mash bourbon. Now, I would say my ignorance when I first started, my palate wasn't the greatest. And I remember when I first had this, I thought it was trash. I was like, ugh, what is sour mash? I was so thrown off, Bellamy's, as we all know, and is MGP. Yes, we know. Now, that wasn't my first introduction to MGP whiskey, but my first introduction to MGP Sour Mash. And it's anyway, so this sat in my collection, like it was like this for like the longest. And then one day I was drinking it, and I was like, you know what? This isn't bad. And then I eventually bought another bottle. So that led me to my the bottle we're covering today, which you see behind me, the Michter's Sour Mash. I love this, by the way. As you can tell, this is probably my third time buying this bottle. My first introduction to the Michter's line, unfortunately I was spoiled. I got Michter's 10 many moons ago, definitely close to retail. This is like right before the boom got crazy and everybody was like upping the prices on this. Shout out to the store owner at the time. I had a great relationship with him, but he had this, it was on display in kind of store that it was, nobody really was buying this. It was just there. So I came in one day and I got it, and as you see, I slipped it slow and I was able to score another one in the back from the same store. Another review for another day, but anyway, this is my introduction into Michter's. As you see, the lineup, we got two of the Michter's 10s. We got the toasted version of the Sour Mash. Another review for another day, it's not open. Barrel strength of the Michter's Rye. I believe that may be a 2022? Yep, 2022 release, the Michter's Rye. Regular standard Michter's Rye release, regular standard of the bourbon release, and a regular standard of the American release, and the Sour Mash. Now, as you all know, like I said, have bottles, have a decent collection, and I necessarily don't personally believe in opening up all my bottles. Why? Because sometimes it's just me, to be a wildfire, link up with certain friends, and I just don't want the stuff sitting there, and I don't necessarily have to taste it as soon as I get it. I like to keep it, collect it, and whoever comes over, we can enjoy it at the time, or if I want to review the bottle. But the bottle that brought me to this series that I'm doing today is, if you're stocking your bar or building, and what are some kind of essentials? And one bottle I highly recommend is getting the Michter's Sour Mash. It's super, super easy to find. It may not be at your regular spirit store that you go to around the way, You might have to go to a big box store, you know, like a Total Wine or Bevmo or Benny's, or whatever the case may be. You find this at like CVS, Walgreens type of locations, but you definitely can find these at like the big box stores. Price and availability, you can find them around. I personally wouldn't go with retail with it. It's coming in at 86 proof. Now I would say that 86, you're thinking like, oh, it doesn't pack too much of a punch. It doesn't, right? But you're also thinking like, it couldn't be too much of a flavor bomb. That's where you're wrong. And that's why I crushed this, and this is why this is like the third one I have. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this review. So 86 proof, Michter's Sour Mash. And as you see, I've already partaken this on. I'm just gonna do it just a little bit because I only have a little bit left. Oh yeah. So yeah, so already on the nose, it's like cherries being thrown at me, but it's almost like candy covered cherries, but there's like deep notes of chocolate in it. Have you ever had those like Hershey, I think Hershey Select bars, I forgot what they call them though, but they're like mini, sometimes you can get them with like almonds or nougat or like toffee. That's what I'm getting on it. So it always smells like a candy. You know, the same usual notes that you would get on bourbon, you know, the cliche notes enter them here. You definitely get those. Not too much ethanol, like I said, with 86 proof, is not necessarily gonna, you know, burn your nose or singe your nose per se, or your tonsils. I would say flavor-wise, it's gonna pack a more flavor profile than like some of your standard ones that you would see on the show. So let's get into this. Yeah, and as expected, all those notes on the nose definitely transfers to the palate. This is definitely something that you could definitely crush in the springtime. Summertime, you're talking to friends. As you see, this is the ongoing thing, talking to friends. Because usually you want things that you're not thinking too much, or it's gonna, you know, burn your palate or compete with anything that you're eating. Honestly, but I've paired this before with food that I had, and it goes well. It's not overpowering. The proof is not too crazy where like you can't really enjoy your food, or it's like overwhelming, but you know, it's just enough and it complements it. This would be something I personally will have in my collection. Either this or the Bellamy Sour Mash. The proof is about the same, honestly. This is obviously a little bit higher proof point. So if you were looking for something to mix on the rocks or in a cocktail, you could go with this theoretically, because like I said, it's a little more proof point, so the dilution is going to be a little less. Now, what makes the Sour Mash, I'll get to it in another episode, but basically, think about if you're making bread or a cake, per se, and as you are making the cake, you make the cake how you already make it, and then you save a little bit of the batter from the cake that you made, and then you know, cook the new cake, and with the old batter you put it into the new batter that you're making for another cake, and then so on and so on. So basically you're saving a small percentage of the mash, call it sour mash, to basically make the new mash, which you would then distill into the spirit. And usually what they would do with like kind of like the leftover things like that, they usually feed it to like, you know, livestock and things like that. But I personally like it. Highly recommend it to keep on the bar. Easy to find. Definitely, as always, wouldn't go retail for the bottle. Necessarily not worth, you know, bunkering the bottle, but definitely easy to find. Let me know down in the comments, you know, if you like sour mash, and if you don't, why or why not. 2, what is your favorite go-to sour mash bottles you like? Do you like the Michter sour mash? Do you like the Bellamy? And are there any other ones, whether it's from Craft Distillery or any of like the big 6 distilleries, that you think I should personally try? On the top of my head, I think I have a few more, but I know for sure like this and that one I definitely have, and I know some other ones use the sour mash process, they just maybe don't list it. So with that said, cheers, salud, sante, Kobe, and all that jazz.